Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Haven't done one of these in a minute. Instagram's been a little bit weird for me lately. Oh, Ange, okay, it's not so weird. It hasn't been showing the people popping up and hasn't been showing any messages on my lives, but we are here in Costa Rica. I have not done one of these Ask Me Anythings, free support, free coaching in a couple of weeks. Hello, my beautiful roommate. I miss you, I miss you, I miss you. But we're here. We are here, and I want to invite you into the space with me today. I'm tuning in from Costa Rica. This is a place where you can tune in with your questions. You can ask me anything that's on your heart. If there's been any themes that have been coming up in your life that you want to talk about, this is a space for you to share. I would love for you to pop into the live. Feel free to request to join. Would love to chat with you about anything that's happening in your world. This has been an interesting journey over the last couple of weeks in Costa Rica. I shared a couple of stories earlier on this morning about some of the themes and some of the lessons that have been coming up for me and some of the things that I've been learning. It's been a beautiful, powerful, and challenging initiation in many ways. And one of the themes that's been coming up a lot this week has been just this concept of being on the spectrum as a human being. And as we dive deeper into the work, as we dive deeper into our self-healing, as we dive deeper into developing our spirituality, working on our healing from the past, healing our relationships in the present, one of the things that we often desire is this expansion into more love, into more gratitude, into more joy, into healthier and happier relationships, right? Into these things that bring us an immense amount of love and excitement and beauty in life. And as we expand on one end of the spectrum, it leads to expansion on the other end of the spectrum. You can't have one without the other, right? And so oftentimes, as we step deeper into the love and step deeper into the gratitude and step deeper into the abundance and into the joy, it comes with expansion on the other end of the spectrum, where we get to also open the door to experiencing more challenge and more hardship and more darkness and more intensity, sometimes more suffering, right? And so on this path that we're walking as human beings, we get to learn to welcome all of the experiences. We get to learn to welcome the beauty. We get to learn to welcome the gratitude, the freaking light, the amazing things that happen, and we get to learn to surrender and welcome the pain and the challenge and the suffering and all the things that create us, that make us who we are, that help reflect to us our own unique gifts, that help show us what we're capable of. And you can't have one side of the spectrum without the other. And so on this journey, hello to everyone joining. Hello, my lovely Lily. On this journey of finding myself in deeper levels of leadership in Costa Rica, I have known that in this process I was going to be faced with some challenges. I honestly could not have planned or expected the things that I was handed and the things that I was given. But it's allowed me to surrender and welcome all of the things on that end of the spectrum. And I've allowed myself to be with so much gratitude for all of those challenges, for all of the pain, for all of the really hard things, because I know that it is bringing on the other side so much more. Love, abundance, excitement, gratitude, connection, expansion. And so a lot of the conversation I've been having with my clients this week, welcome. If you're tuning in live, drop a little hello. Let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And if you have any questions, or if there's anything on your heart or on your mind this week, drop it in the chat, and feel free to request to join the chat as well. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to chat a little bit more about it, and dive a little bit more into your world, into what's coming up for you. So as I've really been with my gratitude for the challenges and for the pain and for the hardship and for the suffering, it's allowed me to really surrender to like that full experience, right? That full spectrum of what we get to have as humans, because it changes us. It allows us to grow. It allows us to see ourselves in new ways, in new light. Hello, everyone that's popping in. Drop in the chat. Let me know where in the world you are tuning in from today. I'm in Costa Rica at the moment. So yeah, it's definitely been an interesting journey being here, and it's shown me so much. It's shown me how beautiful of a life I've created for myself back in Colorado. Andreas is tuning in from Norway. Hello, Andreas. I am here to support you in any way, shape, or form. I'm curious if there's been anything on your heart, anything on your mind, anything that's been coming up for you, any challenges you're facing, if you have any questions about health, wellness, relationships, personal power, anything and everything that surrounds health, wellness, and well-being. I am here to answer, so feel free to drop any questions in the chat. Also, if you want to come in and join the live video, I'd love to chat with you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I hope you're having a beautiful Thursday. We're just talking about the full spectrum of experiencing as human beings. And in order to expand yourself on one end of the spectrum, which is usually the desires, the beauty, the love, the abundance, it's also going to simultaneously expand the other end of the spectrum, where you're oftentimes faced with intensity and challenge and things that aren't as pleasant to experience, and major catalyzers in your journey, in your healing, and who you're becoming. And so, yeah, just like being with a lot of that gratitude and getting to see myself in new levels of leadership and the way that I can show up for myself when things get really fucking hard. And what do you do when you're unresourced, or I should say under-resourced? You don't have the tools that you normally have, and shit hits the fan and you get to deal with it. Like, how do you deal with it? And what I have learned over the last 10 to 15 years of diving deep into this work is that when you're confident in your ability to regulate yourself, when you're confident in your ability to support your emotions, when you're confident in your ability to use the tools that you have in your toolbox, you're able to stay more grounded in the chaos, in the storm. Andreas, I see your question. I'm going to get to it in 1 second. And this is something that we're really not taught as humans, right? We're not taught how to self-regulate. We're not taught how to support ourselves. We're not really taught how to be the observer and how to surrender and like show up for ourselves. And oftentimes we end up people pleasing and putting other people first, which ends up leading us to having a more challenging experience and circumstance. Yeah, just a couple of things that have been coming up for me. I see Andreas had a question, so I'm gonna pop into that for a second. Andreas says, "What's your take on sunscreen and sun exposure?" So I have not used sunscreen once since I've been in Costa Rica. There's been once where I did get a little bit red, and my body tends to heal pretty fast. I also have some wonderful non-toxic squalene oil, which is derived from sugarcane that I use in my body, which helps my skin heal immensely fast. But for me, I'm mindful about my sun exposure. If I'm out in the middle of the day, I always do my best to cover the areas that are most exposed. So I'll put like a shawl over my shoulders so that I am not exposing myself to the most intense and most harmful sun rays during the day. But generally speaking, I don't have super fair skin, so I don't burn super easily. But I don't wear sunscreen. Very, very rarely do I wear sunscreen. I have some zinc that sometimes I'll put on my nose if I know I'm going to be somewhere like on the water or something where the sun's going to be a little bit more intense and be more reflective. But I personally don't wear sunscreen. I'm a big supporter of covering your body and covering yourself if you're going to be in direct sunlight. So that's my take on sunscreen. But yeah, if you have any questions about that, happy to answer them as well. Another takeaway from this experience for me has been, last time I traveled out of the country was 2 years ago, and I went to Guatemala. And at the time, hello, welcome. If you're just joining, drop in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from in the world. If you have any questions or if there's been anything coming up for you, feel free to drop it in the chat. Happy to dive into it a little bit. Happy to talk about it. But yeah, so 2 years ago was the last time that I traveled out of the country, and I went to Guatemala. And at the time, I was deeply, deeply soul searching. I didn't know what my North Star was. I didn't know what I was building and why I was building it. I did not have the depth in the community that I was a part of. There was a lot of things that I was craving that I didn't have in my life at the time. Hello, welcome. If you're just jumping in, let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. I see my friend. Hello. Yeah, and so at the time when I was traveling through Guatemala, like deeply soul searching, I had a really beautiful and really powerful experience. I mean, I always do when I travel abroad. But what's been really interesting is on this trip here, everyone that I meet here in Costa Rica, they've been like, oh my God, like I came here, I traveled here, I fell in love with this place, and I haven't left, and I don't want to leave, and this is home for me. And they're really just like obsessed with this place. And I actually haven't had that experience myself. Like it's been really nice here. I enjoy being in the jungle. The beaches are beautiful. But I haven't found myself like madly in love with Costa Rica in ways that other people express and describe. And I think a big part of that is because like I'm not soul searching. I don't need this slower paced environment to like help me slow down, because I know how to do it on my own. I know how to tune into my needs. I know how to listen to my body. I know how to create my day and build work into it in a way that is supportive for me, in a way that I can bring the slowness into my everyday life. And, you know, I've definitely been missing my people, missing my community. I am so grateful for what I've built, for the people that I have welcomed into my world. And I definitely haven't found the same depth of connection being here. And so it's been really interesting, like, listening to others and how much they have just fallen in love with this place. And getting to reflect on, like, I know where my home is. I know the place that I am madly in love with. I know the place where I have roots and I desire to ground my roots even more. And build community. And I'm so excited to get home and to do that. Taylor, if you've got anything coming up for you this week, as I'm just dropping some flow state conversation here, feel free to pop it in the chat if you want to come in. I'd love to chat with you. If you want to join in here live, you know you are welcome here. See if you want to join. Let us see if you're available. Ah, there he is. What's up, my friend?
Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm grateful, just like really anchored in this sense of like gratitude, like moment to moment. And yeah, just grateful to be alive. Like I feel like life is so precious. I actually recently lost a good friend of mine that I grew up with, and 37 years old, and I'm just like that is way too young. And it's like, yes, age is just a number and everything is energy, but it's like beyond that, it's just life is so precious. Time is like a construct of the mind that we are not gifted with. We create it, we make time, we make space, and just making space for you and you making space for others is a beautiful thing. It's very expansive to be able to like hit the pause button to reflect and to open our hearts. We are then gifted with more time. We create that time. Um, I don't know, in these conscious conversations. So I'm really grateful for you. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm grateful for you too. And
Yeah.
first of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know how hard it is losing friends, losing anyone. It's never easy, and it really does put into perspective like how precious life is, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the big things that like I'm just like I feel into when I hear that is like how important it is to really bring into your world and bring into your life the things that matter to you, the things that light you up, that make you so passionate, that
Mm,
light your heart on fire and your soul on fire, as I like to say, because time is not guaranteed,
right.
and you don't know when that time is going to be for you. And one of the things I love so much when I work with my clients and in my group programs is like helping people like get clear on like what do they want now? Like what do they crave? What is it that would light them up, that would make them so happy? And it's so often that you hear people be like, oh, like like in the future I'll do that, or in the future I'll take the vacation, or in
Sure.
the future I'll like start the thing because like right now I've got to focus on this. And it's like, well, you don't have to focus on that if that's not what you want to
Wow.
focus on,
Yeah.
right? I mean, granted, there are priorities that we get to bring in, right? Like if you have kids, like
Respons-
obviously, like
responsibility and
totally,
priorities for sure.
like
For sure.
responsibilities and priorities are totally a thing. And like I think so many people waste their life and their time, I should say, like living their life in a way that actually isn't aligned for them and actually isn't aligned with
Well,
what makes them happy.
and there's definitely truth to that. Like, so often we find ourselves in misalignment, or we don't realize that we are aligning to that which we do not desire, or that which we aspire to be or to become. And you make such a great point. Like, so many of us like push out this like I'll be happy when, or so many of us chase happiness or love like it's some third party entity outside of us, right? I love what you're just sharing about Costa Rica. Like, so many people fall in love with this destination vacation when the truth is like the destination is the journey. The destination is day to day, moment to
Yeah.
moment, breath to breath, falling in love with yourself so that you can like open up that space to no matter where you may be geographically located, like you are home in your heart, in your breath, It's I don't know. I feel that I see so many people around me. Like, honestly, it's a direct mirror reflection. It's a lesson for me to either realign or to like remember that love is not something to be found outside of me. Like, happiness is not something to chase. And the more I can be happy here now, like filling up my car, the more I can be happy and content, really find that baseline level of contentment, then I can like really expand into those higher vibrational frequencies of like joy, which is unconditional happiness. Like, being so happy with me unconditionally that it naturally converts to joy. You see, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at. Yeah, so much
Love
love,
that.
so much love.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Like happiness and love, like don't need to be contingent upon a certain destination or a certain thing, right? And I'll never forget like when I first started in business, I forced myself into like this is what it has to look like. I need to do this. I need to like show up. I need to like have I need to figure it out. And in the process, like I really got to learn to tune into myself, and like build my love for myself and build my relationship with myself. And I think that's something that is often like really missed in business, and in like working towards a goal or an aspiration or a desire, is like people often forget that the most important thing is coming home to themselves and like aligning within themselves, connecting with their love, like deepening their relationship with them, with themselves. And as you deepen your relationship with yourself, you then can deepen your relationship with all the things around you in the world, ultimately. Um,
I completely agree. And,
yeah.
I'm leaving the gas station right now, actually, the electrical station, EV station. But yeah, I mean, what takes you to Costa Rica? I haven't seen you in a while. How are things going? What are
Things
you
are
doing in Costa Rica?
good. So the original thing that brought me to Costa Rica, I'm as of tomorrow stepping into a 15-day somatic leadership immersion that's mixed with a yoga teacher training. And um, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be in Costa Rica, and there's a festival called Envision that I'd always wanted to go to. That was at the beginning of the month, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go. I'm going to send it and then travel around for a minute and hit the festival, and then explore a little, and then go to the retreat. So the retreat starts tomorrow.
That's amazing. That's is that the Gaia Envision, or is that something else?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I
I
know
don't
that
have any of it.
they just wrapped up a little event as well. But well, that's amazing. I'm glad you're having a good time. And I know you mentioned Guatemala. Like one of my best friends is in Guatemala right now.
Oh, no way. Whereabouts?
I'd be lying if I were to say exactly where, but yeah, I don't know. I heard you mention Guatemala, so I perked up.
I was there a couple of years back. Beautiful place. I was in Lago Atitlan, Lake Atitlan, which is a very magical place to be. And but yeah, how about you? What's going on in your world these days?
Man, I'm just to be completely honest with you, just like living the dad life. Raising my boys. They're 13 years old, twin boys in seventh grade. Like it's unbelievable. So many of us we talk about like, how children are the leaders of the future, and I'm like reminded every day that children are the leaders like right now. And I believe the more that we listen to our children, the more that we have the like ability to learn. Like I tell my boys all the time, like I'm not here to just get on to you, right? I'm not here to like just discipline you. Yes, like that is, part of my role, but I'm not just a disciplinarian. Like I'm a student that is like learning with them. I'm not just the teacher. And so often when I'm like imparting these lessons, especially like the recurring lessons that like keep surfacing in different settings, right? Like with different cast of characters, like it's like where can I learn? Where can I humble myself and just tell my boys like, hey guys, like I'm learning with you. And I think that it's so important, whether it be like in a coaching container, whether it be me coaching my boys. Like I just think it's so important, that level of divine servant leadership. I think it's so important, that level of humility, to level the playing field, to like realize that like again, what did I say just a second ago in different contexts? Age is just a number. And
Hmm.
each and every one of us, we are born into this world enlightened. We are born to this world perfect. We're born into this world made in his image, which is not a he or a she. It's the infinite intelligence that flows through me, that flows through you. And we've talked about this before, but over time, we get conditioned with the programming, with, we are who we hang out with the external influence. And from the content that we stream to the, yoga immersions that we, participate in, good, bad, or indifferent, like it's all feeding our soul or covering up our soul. And I'm in this space right now where it's like being a sponge, like as my children are in a like crucial time in their life of learning and going through puberty and, getting their first girlfriends and all these things, like, it's like I'm learning how to be not only a better father, but a better human as well. So it's just, I don't know. Um, Hopefully that's what you asked me, but I love sharing with you, and I'm grateful to be like grateful to be alive. Like I said,
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I think kids are such powerful teachers, and like you're kind of hinting at here, like every person has so much wisdom to share. And I think one of the most beautiful qualities of a coach, a mentor, a leader is the ability not just to teach, but also to receive teachings from their students. And like me, and I was actually having a conversation with one of my really good friends yesterday, who was also a leader in the space of men's work, and just really admire him for many of his leadership qualities. But we were joking around, but also like really serious about it. Like, I know nothing. I know things, and I know nothing. And when you can like humble yourself by the fact that like you actually don't know shit, like you open yourself to be able to receive so much more knowledge, so much more wisdom, so much more, so much more across the board. And so I love that you're getting to learn so much from your boys. And like, hello, Kristen, I see you there. Um, getting to learn so much from your boys, and like regardless of how old they are, you're like, oh no, like they are my teachers. I love that.
totally, totally, and it's like, and really to like expand on that even further, like to really cherish like every interaction, right? Like, especially post 2020, like to like, make eye contact and to like, just like the power of gratitude, right? I mean, like to genuinely carry around, it's gratitude's what I call active appreciation, right? Like have an active appreciation for everyone around me. Just like, thank you, thank you. And like, even if I'm on the road and people are driving like crazy, like what else? Like I literally in my mind will say, thank you, like, thank you. Or I'll think of like someone who triggered me, for example, or a past conversation I've had, or a past relationship I was in. And I'll allow the emotions to process, but the quicker I can go to thank you, just thank you, like thank you for no other reason than love itself. It just like it's so expansive for me, and yeah, gratitude's where the magic's at. I'll be
Yeah,
honest with you.
absolutely. Yeah, it's always happening for you, especially when something's happening that you don't really want and you want something else. And then like being able to be grateful for the fact that like the thing that is happening is looks totally different. I had this
Hey,
crazy experience
bingo.
at the festival, and I was super frustrated one morning because like I wanted to get somewhere and be somewhere, and the people that I wanted to be with weren't responding to me. And I was like so annoyed by it. And I was like, I would never do this to someone. This isn't how I would handle the situation. And I had to check myself that morning. And I was like, Leah, I'm like, surrender, trust the process. Like, this is happening for a reason. You don't know what that reason is yet, but it's happening for a reason. And I later found out and understood why I wasn't where I wanted to be, because I ended up finding someone and like quite literally like helping save their life that day. And I just
Wow.
sat there like the moment I found this person on the ground, I was like, okay, I get it. Like I understand. And I think it's oftentimes like when we can't surrender and we can can only stay focused on this thing that we want and this way that we want this thing to be and this thing that we in the way that we think it should look,
Focused or
we actually
fixated?
then we then become blind to the lesson and the wisdom and what is actually there to be received. And like having gratitude for the things that aren't actually the way that you want them to be allows you to be open and to receive the medicine that's there for you.
Well, and it's you and I both know easier said than done. Like
Totally.
how quick are how quick are we to judge? Like to judge the circumstance, to judge the situation, to judge the cast of characters, to judge the setting, to even judge our own plot line, right? And it's like, why do we experience this discontent, this lack of contentment, right? I believe contentment is the baseline to happiness, right? Just basic contentment with what is, without any concern for what is not, right? And
Mm,
it's like how do we even start to experience discontentment or a lack of contentment? It's due to judgment of that particular situation. And why do we judge? Well, judgment is a comparison of what is and what isn't, and
yeah.
our perception and misperception. Therefore, we attach our ego expectations to the equation. And when we do that, we don't factor in, like, we leave very little room for that magic. We leave very little room for the infinite possibilities that exist, right? It's like we so often compare what is now to what was or what should be, and
Yeah.
we inevitably, like counterintuitively, counterproductively, create the exact opposite restrictive space, versus the expansion that most of us seek. So I share all that with you. It's just to simplify it in layman's terms. It's so important to number one, how do you identify baseline level of contentment? It's to surrender judgment, right? It's to surrender judgment, to surrender or let go or release any ego expectations to the equation, right? When we can simplify this equation of life and take out all these factors that are unnecessary, comparing this relationship with the last relationship, comparing this conversation with the last conversation, comparing this immersion with the last immersion, comparing Costa Rica to Colorado to Guatemala, like none of it matters. Like it really doesn't. It's all an experience. It's all like honestly a phenomenon that like shouldn't even exist, right? The fact that we're even alive and breathing is a literal scientific miracle. So when we can approach each and every day not only as a blessing but as a miracle, that right there is how I find baseline level contentment. Releasing judgment, releasing expectation, and on the flip side, like embracing this life for the miracle, not just blessing, for the miracle that it is. It's really expansive and healing for me. So that's my 2 cents and a little bit more. But you know that you bring out the best in me, and I love you with all my heart. I'm really grateful for you.
I'm super grateful for you as well. Yeah, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, and you always bring up a lot of great points. And yeah, I think with judgment especially, like there's always um, if you break judgment apart, I think that underneath it lies expectation and attachment, right? And I think that's one of the hardest things to practice in life is non-attachment, and it requires a deep level of surrender to be unattached to any expectation, to any outcome. um, and yeah, like this process of comparison, um, like
I've got to say hi to all our people,
I
like
know.
Ellie,
Hello
Ellie,
everyone.
and like golly, Kristen and Jay and
Hello.
Shane, brother man. Like
Hello.
wow, so much love, so
Where in
much
the
love.
world are you guys tuning in
Wow.
from? Hello, hello. um yeah, I think that like something with comparison that was coming up for me as you were talking about that too. It's like I think that I'm trying to get clear in my mind exactly like what what it is happening up there. Right? I think that there's this difference between like comparison and also like allowing yourself to like be reflected to, and like how can you see new things, like almost having like a light, you know, shining on the dark corners of the room so that you can see these new corners, so that you
I
can
love
see these
that.
new areas without comparison. And like I don't think that's easy, and that's something I've been sitting with this week, is like to an extent like I have been comparing like what is here in Costa Rica to what is there for me in Colorado. Um, and hello, you guys. Um, and also simultaneously, like releasing, trying to focus on like what it is that's being reflected to me versus staying in this like this or that, one or the other. And also being super fucking grateful for like being here.
Bingo.
Um,
I mean, you just alluded to it. I mean, it's being a neutral observer,
yeah,
right? And like how easy is that? It's not. It's really not. Like from situation to situation, from interaction to interaction, from conversation to conversation, to be totally neutral. I mean, that's like not even being human sometimes. But it's like, it's it's like the quicker we can accept that comparison, that judgment, notice it, identify it, but label it
yeah,
for what it is. Hey, that's me. That's the human version of me. That's me comparing what is now to what is not, or what is not to what should be, right? That's backward facing, that's forward facing. That is all a lack of pure essence of presence at the end of the day. And once you can identify it, then what happens? We then enter into presence, right?
yeah,
It's like, and presence is the greatest present you can give to anyone, including and especially yourself. So like, I just feel that like embracing the grace through all of this, right?
yeah.
Like not being difficult, not being hard on yourself, not judging yourself for judging others, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
like letting it be, noticing it, but quicker shifted, right? And
Yeah.
that's not a suppression. That's not like an avoidance. That's not like that's not a denial. It's like it's quite the opposite. It's like notice it,
Acceptance.
notice it, but then have unconditional. You said it, unconditional acceptance
Yeah.
for your thought process. But then, like, once you label these thoughts, notice them as just that, and then in a healthy way, detach. I like the word non attachment, like you said. Practice non attachment through neutrality.
Yeah.
It's not right or wrong, good or bad. It just is. And if
Yeah.
everything is serving us, if everything is a blessing, if life itself is a literal miracle, then okay, this is all working for me, whether it feels comfy or not. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
I think duality too is like a really beautiful, beautiful concept to bring in here as well. Because it's like, yes, like I can see all these things and have gratitude for the things that are happening here and the things that are happening back home. I can have duality for like being present and having gratitude and being fully immersed in my experience here while missing home and while craving home and while being homesick and wanting to also experience things back home as well. And so I think being able to like surrender to the process, being able to practice non-attachment and being able to opt into duality. And how can you be with multiple things at the same time and be that neutral observer, be welcoming and accepting of all the feelings, all the emotions, all the experiences without trying to change it and accepting them as is presence.
That's an interesting like take on duality, which is a whole nother conversation that I'd be open to having. When I reference duality, I often talk about the differentiator between the illusion of separation and like natural scientific polarity. But that's going like I know that's going like way deep. You know, I hear what you're saying, duality more as like, if this and that, or just the acknowledgement that, there are beautiful differences amongst people, amongst locations, amongst situations, and to just like honor that. Yeah, like I said, when you mentioned duality, that kind of throws me down a whole different kind of topic. But truth be told, it's all the same. I mean, it's all connected. It's all interconnected, and um, I agree with you. Like, it's a fine line. I mean, again, we're human, so honoring the ego, right? Like honoring the ego and the fact that we all do have different, like, we all have a human condition. Like, we all have different preferences, and those preferences are can be healthy opinions, right? But I think it's so important to take out the emotional charge from a preference, because I believe when we like infuse an emotional charge to a preference, it then evolves into like a judgment up against others, right? And self-judgment as well. So I just think it's important to, it goes back to neutrality. Like I always talk about, it's that state of neutrality where we honor the ego's opinion, we honor the ego's preferences, but we also don't cast judgment in a negative way of others' preferences or other locations or other events or other interactions. It's just simply, what do I prefer? What do I like about this? What do I not like about this? What is this situation? What is this person? What is this conversation? What is this interaction teaching me? Not about others, not about what would I change about anything outside of me, but what can I fine tune and better align with inside of me to better express outside of me and
Yeah.
better experience outside of me, that which I desire to aspire to align with.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It's that constant reflection of self and like what feels good, what doesn't feel good, like where are you aligned, where are you not aligned, and how can you continue to always take, be the observer and take the experiences that you're having in your life and apply them and integrate them in a way where you get to then decide, like, do I want to continue stepping forwards on the same path, or do I want to step a little bit to the side and continue walking forwards just a slightly different direction, a slightly different path. And I love this question here. If there's no need to change anything, then we must trust that our growth will happen despite us not changing things. And I think that yes, I don't know, what's coming to me is like awareness is huge here, right? Because like things in the environment will
Well,
change and
slow
it
down, slow
will,
down. Not to interrupt, but
yeah.
read that again. Read that again for me, let alone the viewers. Read that again.
If there's no need to change anything, then we must trust that our growth will happen despite us not changing things. My brain wants to go so many places with this.
Right.
Um,
Perveen. That's, I mean, it's profound, and it's really the basis of what we're kind of weaving and interconnecting
yeah.
together. And not to interrupt Leah, because I want to hear
No, you're
her
good.
like 10 different reflections on it as well. But it's like it's this like unconditional acceptance of self, right? So it's like it's a it's a it's a total surrender. It's a total surrender of trusting that the universe is working for us. A total surrender that, let's be honest, change is the only constant. Change and
Yeah.
love is the only constant, right? So it's like trusting that change is the only constant, that it'll continue, like change and evolution will continue to take shape and take form without our ego's like insertion to it. It comes down to total surrender and unconditional acceptance of what is without judging it, which
Yeah, and I
is,
think that
yeah, bring it.
there's going to be internal change and there's going to be external change. And so I think something that like is also coming to me here is right, it's like there might not be need to change anything. And yes, like growth is still going to happen and we have control over our actions, our behaviors, our habits, and our responses. And so there may not be the need to change anything and to influence the external environment. It is going to require a level of awareness to shift the way that you're acting, the way that you're responding, the way that you're interacting with the world around you. And so I don't know. It's like even if you don't change, I don't know. My brain's going so many
But
places
no,
with
no,
this.
and the word change, like what is the desire? What is the baseline? What is the basis of change? Like, well, it's when we can feel into the body, right? Drop from the head to the heart, feel into the body of like what feels right, what feels off, what feels aligned, what feels like we need or desire change.
Yeah.
I believe that like that's where we can identify contentment. That's where we can
Yeah.
identify alignment. That's where we can like just label it, just notice it, and get into that, honestly, forgiveness of self and others, where we can get into the unconditional acceptance, right? To the surrender, to the releasing judgment. It is all connected, and there's no guidebook or manual to this
No.
life, but it's like I believe the quicker we can just get humble with the universe, get humble and open and honest with ourselves.
I mean,
Um,
it
yeah,
requires a high level of discernment. I've actually been sitting a lot with this, and this has been coming up for me lately around this aspect. Like, so I came into this world of self development, of healing, and through having severe chronic pain, severe chronic health issues, autoimmune diseases, and it was my physical pain that was a catalyst for me in learning how to create change in my life. And I learned how to change my body, how to manipulate my circumstances to avoid and help heal the physical pain. And is pain a great teacher? Yes. And if I had done nothing, the pain would have persisted forever because I actually did have physical biomechanical issues going on. And one of the things that's been coming up for me lately that came through in a mushroom ceremony was this idea of vipassana, right? And the ability to just sit in complete silence and complete stillness, allow the pain to come up, and then allow it to dissipate, right? It letting it pass through you, allowing yourself to transmute it by doing nothing, really. And I think that there's this discernment between when do you lean into one and when do you lean into another, because sometimes like action is required to create something different, to create change. And really understanding, when do you sit with the emotions, when do you sit with the pain, when do you sit with the experience without changing it. And I don't think that there is a particular answer, like a right answer to this. It requires each person to sit with, like, okay, like I need to sit with this until I know it's time to not sit with this anymore and actually do something about it. Over the summer, I sat in a period of like 3 months of depression, and I knew that I had to be in it because everything was burning to the ground and it was a death process. And I sat with it until I knew what action to take moving forwards. And it was like, yes, Praveen's saying here, awareness. The awareness is what allows you to create shift, and it allows you to then lean into the things that bring you back into alignment. And so I think that like you can sit with the pain and do absolutely nothing with any of the discomfort and things that you're experiencing your whole life. And then, are you being the creator of your life? Are you actually taking the reins, in your hands and choosing to walk in the direction that is aligned with you and that feels good for you? And vice versa. Like, if you're only being in control and trying to change all the things, are you actually allowing yourself to be with the medicine that is giving you what it is that you need to then be ready to act on change eventually? So I don't know. I think that this is a really beautiful
so
question,
good.
Praveen. I love that you brought this up.
So good. There are two
Awareness.
things. Two things that are standing out, and yeah, definitely read what Praveen just put because it's gold. But
Yeah.
two things that are standing out to me. The honestly
Yeah.
differentiating discernment versus judgment. Like, we can sit
Yeah.
around and talk about discernment, but at what point are we judging the situation? Discernment versus judgment,
I think
and
that's
then
mine.
and then what you mentioned, and then what you mentioned. I have to know where you're at, but and then what you mentioned,
Someone
like,
just tried to serve me a frozen drink, and I was like, I don't know where to
uh,
that.
how funny, how funny. You mentioned the word control, you mentioned the word manipulate, not in a negative context, but kind of stripping away the semantics of it. Control, manipulate versus like an openness versus a allowance versus a surrender, right? But specifically, discernment versus judgment is a topic that I've been discussing a lot recently. Like, and I know it comes down to semantics and like the language, but it's very interesting. It's like it's parallel to the concept of what you're saying. Like, for how long do we address it, not suppress it, but address it, face
Yeah.
it, sit with it, but then release it? Like, how quickly can we release? How quickly can we shift? How quickly can we allow these doors to open around us to catch our flow state? Like, it's directly in like parallel to that concept of discernment versus judgment. Like, I'll pause with that thought, but it's just there is no perfect rhyme or reason. Everyone is different, and I just, again, unconditional acceptance. Like, let me love you now and
Yeah.
question you later. You
Yeah.
know?
And yeah, like you said, like awareness is your superpower. It's so key. Awareness of, and the ability to tune into your body and communicate with your body, to listen to your body, to know when you've hit that breaking point, when enough is enough, when you've hit your limit, when you've maybe pushed your edge a little too far, which is great because, right, you're learning to expand your edges, but then you know that there's actually something that you get to do to act on it, to bring yourself back into this space that, like Praveen's saying, that allows you to flow. And, one of the things I brought up here in the chat is like, yeah, like flow is so important. And in order to have flow, which is truly that feminine energetically, in order to have that flow, the masculine energetics get to come in and create the container for the flow. And so I think that we can bring the same thing in here too, where it's like, right, that feminine is like, in my opinion, the sitting and being and like experiencing and feeling and maybe like not implementing the change, but knowing that the masculine is holding the container for you to sit in, to be there, so that you can then, once that awareness says it's time, step into creating the change and into like being discerning enough to say, okay, it's time to take a step in some direction, rather than just like sit here and like feel, experience, be. You're buffering. I don't know if it's me or you. Could be my Costa Rica Wi-Fi. Who knows? But yeah, I think this is a beautiful, beautiful prompt that you brought up, Praveen. Thank you for bringing this to the table. It's really beautiful to think about, like, when do you get to be with the change, and when do you actually allow yourself to just be, right? When do you get to implement change, and when do you allow yourself to just be? So glad you loved the conversation. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Like, I've loved your feedback. I've loved what you've had to share, what you've had to offer. Thank you for all of that. And yeah, like finding that balance, right? And I don't really love the word balance, but it's a harmony. It's finding this constant harmony in doing and being, because we can't really have one without the other. Both have to work and flow together. And awareness is what's going to allow us to recognize when are we out of harmony, and when and how can we come back into harmony. And I think that harmony is constantly changing, right? Like, you're never going to find balance and stay in balance. It's always going to be this constant search for balance, which in my opinion is going to be this flow. Like, this is the scale, right? It's like this flow of harmony to find the sweet point, the sweet spot. What feels good? And what is aligned? Even if it doesn't feel good, is it actually aligned? And do you know that it's here for you? Do you need it? Is it supporting you in where you want to go? Where you think you're going? Because we never really know where we're going. We just have an idea. And then the universe is like, no, it's not it. It's over here. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into the live today. I do these every Thursday. I'm not totally sure if I'm going to be able to be on here exactly at 12 next week. I'm going to be in a leadership immersion for the next couple of weeks. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, and if you want to hit the little bell at the top of my profile and remind yourself, or set a reminder for any time I come live. I'll probably be in here pretty sporadically over the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I'm surrendering to the process, and consistency will pick back up as soon as I come home. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for adding to the conversation. Grateful for you, for everything that you've added. Praveen, thank you for your prompts, for your reflections, for contributing to the juice of all of this. So I'm sending you all so much love. I am sending some sunshine and some heat to you all from Costa Rica. And yeah, I hope to see you in my lives again super soon. Sending you love.